Hola, buenas tardes, buenas noches, bienvenidos. This is En Casa con la Plaza. My name is Abelardo de la Peña Jr. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications for La Plaza de Cultura y Artes, welcoming you to today's session of En Casa con la Plaza. En Casa con la Plaza is our virtual programming. We've been at it since April of 2020 when the lockdown first began, a little bit over a month. But basically bringing La Plaza's programming from our home to yours via these discussions, presentations, conversations, demonstrations, and performances. We've got a good one for you tonight. If you've joined us on Zoom, please let us know where you're viewing from. Just click in. I'm coming in from Long Beach, from Whittier, just so we know how big our reach is. Those of you who have joined us on Zoom, please do the same. Let us know where you're viewing from as well. We'll take questions during the presentation, maybe afterwards. Use the Q&A or use the comment section on Facebook, please. Erika Garcia has joined us from El Monte. Thank you, Erika, for joining us from El Monte. Same on Facebook, use the comment section. Let us know where you're viewing from as well. Okay, we're gonna start off tonight with something a little bit different. First of all, a video which will contextualize today's discussion on Beyond Protection, the future of Dreamers in the US. So here goes. Give me a little bit of time here because this just came in, but I think you're gonna enjoy it. So here we go. Gonna share sound. Okay.
Así es que tal, buenas tardes. Este primer grupo de beneficiarios de DACA que lograron regresar a los Estados Unidos con Advance Parole llegó el día de ayer y dicen que las experiencias fueron muy satisfactorias.
Sí tenía más de 27 años que no venía a México.
Un sueño que ya pudo realizar es el que logró Miriam Delgado, beneficiaria de DACA, que junto con un grupo de 21 estudiantes viajó con el permiso de Advance Parole a México bajo el programa educativo de California Mexico Studies. Como parte de esta experiencia académica, visitan lugares culturales de campo y hasta tiempo para reunirse con su familia.
Entonces sí fue un programa maravilloso. Estos jóvenes de todo el país se reunieron, crearon un tipo de hermandad, como quien dice, entre ellos.
Advance Parole es un permiso de viaje, dice el profesor Armando Vasquez-Ramos, y fundador del programa que se da por razones humanitarias, de trabajo o en este caso académicas. Para calificar bajo Advance Parole tiene que tener un periodo válido de DACA y puede comprobar que necesita viajar al extranjero por razones de empleo, educación o humanitarias.
Mira, el requisito es de que tengan el permiso, la protección temporal de DACA. Eso les da el acceso al beneficio de Advance Parole. Y también pueden estar en la universidad o ya haber egresado y en muchos casos también que no han acudido a la universidad.
El proceso fue largo, inclusive tuvieron que demandar para agilizar los permisos que duraron hasta 8 meses en contestar.
Fueron 8 meses de espera muy largos.
Al regreso de su viaje les permiten tener una entrada legal de cuando arribaron por primera vez al país en la infancia.
Lo que constituye es eliminar la entrada indocumentada cuando ellos llegaron como niños.
La demanda para este tipo de programas es única en su tipo y supera la oferta. Por eso es importante que otras instituciones ofrezcan estas oportunidades.
O sea que esto va a seguir, pero las universidades tienen que tomar la responsabilidad de iniciar estos programas.
El próximo grupo de beneficiarios de DACA que viajan con Advance Parole bajo este programa será en el mes de julio. Mi reporte en Kern, Jessica Bedoya, Noticias, Univisión 21.
All right, so we're back. Here goes. Let me turn this off here. We're back. This is Abelardo de la Peña Jr. again from La Plaza de Cultura y Artes, welcoming you to En Casa con la Plaza. That was a reportage from Univision, which came up pretty recently. This is the program tonight, Beyond Protection, the Future of Dreamers in the US. There are more than 800,000 Dreamers, children brought without legal documentation to the US. Although President Barack Obama gave them partial relief by establishing DACA, the fate of Dreamers remains uncertain. So Professor Armando Vasquez-Ramos, founder of the California Music Mexico Study Center, and so much more. He's been promoting educational opportunities for the Mexican, American, and Latino populations for more than 50 years, taught Chicano Latino education, history, immigration, politics, public policy, and U.S. relations at the CSU Long Beach Chicano and Latino Studies Department. Also is the coordinator of the California Mexico project. So I'm gonna stop right there because you saw that it was in Spanish. Hopefully you understood it. If not, well, we will explain it to you right now what we saw. So please join us, Armando Vasquez-Ramos. Please unmute and start your video. There you go.
Correcto. Buenas tardes, Abelardo. Qué gusto de verte otra vez, mi querido colega y colaborador. I'm so glad that you invited me, and the timing couldn't be better because we just came back on Sunday, on Father's Day. We returned with the first group of 5 groups that I'm taking this summer for a total of 210 dreamers that will have the first opportunity in almost 4 years since the Trump administration attempted to kill DACA on September 5 of 2017, which was only about 2 weeks after we came back with a group of 35 dreamers on August 21st of 2017. And that was literally the last study abroad program that has been provided under the provision known as advanced parole. It's a temporary the term is really, it's so negative. Advanced parole means like you're a convict in a prison that is being given a release in advance. But what it simply means is a temporary release to travel, to study abroad, to work abroad, or in this case also for humanitarian reasons. And advanced parole is something that I started to develop an idea back in 2013, and then in 2014, I started with a group of students that I took to Mexico to study abroad during spring break of 2014. And I took within that group 2 dreamers that for the first time had a chance to return home, return to Mexico. And after that, I had 5 other groups that I took, a total of about 160 students over the 3 years that we were able to offer that program until 2017. That's when this came to a halt. And we fought for the last 4 years to restore DACA's advanced parole as a national campaign that was led by my organization, but also with the idea that we needed to fight for those dreamers that are losing every day. They're losing loved ones. And fortunately, since the election of President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, they have started to grant those humanitarian permits. But as it relates to the educational permits, we found out that it was no different than under Trump. It had been already 3 months under the Biden administration, and we had 80 applications that had been lagging since last August. So we applied for them to travel during the winter, during this mid-December to mid-January of this year. And of course, this was with the anticipation that under Biden, things would be different. So when it came to the end of April, we filed a legal complaint against the government, against the Biden and Harris administration, basically saying it doesn't matter who's in government. The respect of dreamers, the provision of advanced parole has to be restored. So we went to federal court, and it was like magic. In 3 days, they started approving those 80 applications that had been sitting for almost 9 months. Unbelievable. But now we're able to celebrate that not only those 80 applications have been approved. This first group I was able to bring back on Sunday. No one was rejected. Nobody had any problem. In fact, we flew back in to LAX, and in less than an hour, those 21 participants were able to clear the secondary inspection that is common for this type of traveler, which are, again, dreamers. It's almost unimaginable. The dreamers can actually study abroad, can actually work abroad with this permit. So I'm really, really happy, and I'm passionate about this because this summer, in addition to those 80, we are getting approval for an additional 130. We're going to have a total of 210 dreamers that will realize their dream of going back home. And as the clip showed, there's individuals like Miriam who had not been able to go home after 27 years until now. Many others that came when they were in diapers. Many others that were separated, like this young woman with a flag. Anel Medina is a frontline worker in the medical field. She's a registered nurse in Philadelphia and has battled back this nasty and killer pandemic. And she was finally being able to return home to see her father, who she had not seen for many, many years. The family separated, and she had been able to remain in the US undocumented, pursue her education. So these are all human stories that need to be told. We intend to publish a book from the writing of these young people that were required to produce an ethnographic research paper that reflects their experience going back home, their tears, their suffering over so many years, and finally being able to realize their lifelong dream to return home. Some of these are images during the week-long academic program that we offer to each one of these 5 groups. Will spend a whole week with us in a place called Hacienda Cocoyoc, between Cuernavaca and Cuautla, so that we would create a very safe and isolated space and make sure that nobody comes back or suffers the infection of the pandemic while they're traveling with us.
That's an incredible story, Doctor. Professor Armando Vasquez-Ramos. If you could just kind of back up a little bit. You've been an educator for 30 plus years. They're at recently retired from Cal State Long Beach. And your interest and the formation of the California-Mexico Project, was it specific with dreamers in mind? And tell us about its genesis.
Thank you for asking that question. I actually started the California-Mexico Project when I was still working at Cal State Long Beach and the Cal Poly Pomona some 23 years ago. And then I realized that I needed to become independent. And upon retiring almost 10 years ago, I created the California-Mexico Studies Center, which is a nonprofit based here in Long Beach, and that I operate from my home, and that is entirely independent of the university. I want to make that very clear, because while I'm still employed by the university as the coordinator of an ethnic studies program that I also established about 7 years ago, I'm only part-time doing that. And my passion is to continue to provide and promote Chicano studies in Mexico, study abroad for dreamers. In this case, in the last 7 years, this is what I focused upon. And also what I'm trying to do now, which is to create an incentive for Mexico to begin teaching about the 40 million Mexicans that are now in this side of the border. We're about 25% of the Mexican population, 40 million out of 60 million Latinos. 40 million are of Mexican descent, like you and I. You and I have worked before with the Mexican Cultural Institute of La Placita Olvera. I go back to the days of the high school walkouts of East LA, the blowouts that were led by my inspiration in this movement was Sal Castro back in 1968, when I started also Cal State Long Beach. And thereupon, I've been building all the way through those last 53 years from the Chicano Studies Department at Cal State Long Beach to initiatives like this that are now part of my ongoing effort to promote education with our young people, but not going beyond our borders, not going into promoting knowledge about these 40 million Mexicanos that live north of the border and that Mexico, quite frankly, doesn't know anything about, because they haven't done anything in the last 50-something years to teach about, to learn about, and to research and publish about our population. And let me tell you, the latest data reflects that the 60 million Latinos in the United States are the equivalent of a $2.6 trillion economy. Alone, those 60 million Latinos would represent the 8th largest economy in the world. We produce and we generate in terms of U.S. In terms of the U.S. economy, what's equivalent to twice the size of the Mexican economy, and we are larger than the Brazilian economy. Get a hold of that. And Mexico does not understand that. All they're concerned about is how much money we're sending to Mexico through remittances. It's almost like tunnel vision. And so this is what I'm passionate about today, Abelardo. When I retired from the Mexican Cultural Institute, I told you, because you and I were keeping that place alive, I told you, brother, I have made a commitment to promote dreamers to study abroad, but also the idea of Chicano studies, studies about the Mexican diaspora, the Mexican migration into the US that keeps alive the Mexican economy. But today we are growing exponentially in the United States. To say that we have that kind of economic power, it's a mouthful, but it hasn't been harnessed. So we have the future of the Western Hemisphere in our community here in the United States, because Latinos are going to double in size in the next 20, 40, 50 years. So what we're looking at, and you and I will be gone by then, but we're looking at the US being composed of more than 25% of the entire population will be Latinos. We're talking about producing and stimulating the US economy, but also the economy of Mexico. Central America is no different. The remittances from the US, from Centroamericanos, still, like in Mexico, the highest source of revenue to those economies. So the question here is, how are we documenting? How are we learning and teaching about those communities, from the Zacatecanos to the Michoacanos, the Jaliscienses, that are producing this wealth for both the US and Mexico, but in Mexico, they do not know anything about those populations of origin. That's the Mexican diaspora.
And how does your work with the Dreamers in first of all, in the advanced parole, in having them return to Mexico, the country of their birth, which they were brought over from with their parents at a very young age. They had to, of course, do an application process and so on. How does this play into that activity of your organization in teaching the Mexicanos about the Chicano history, about what we have done, which immigrants from Mexico, of course, there are impact in not just sending money, which is an important part of their economy, of course, but also, how is the program facilitating that conversation?
I think, Abelardo, fundamentally, we're talking about what we represent, the 60 million Latinos, and out of those 40 million of Mexican descent as human capital. We are more than just money flowing south. We are now becoming not only the largest ethnic minority population within the United States, we're going to be the majority of the state of California. We're going to be the majority of the state of Texas. This is the source of the hate, the racism, the fear, the menace that we represent to those supremacist white people that would like to see us disappear from the face of the earth. The Trumpists, the insurrectionists that attacked the Capitol on January the 6th, those hateful people that will never change and will die with their hate. And for us, as educators, I believe that we need to focus on young people. So when I started to interpret DACA, which comes about in 2012, and then by 2013, there was this thing called advanced parole. And advanced parole was a mystery. And as I began to go deeper into what were the premises, how could you acquire it, I realized from a political and an educational standpoint that it provided dreamers that had DACA benefits for them to be able to return home for those three basic reasons. For humanitarian reasons, when a loved one is seriously ill or dying or has died. For employment reasons, which is very few the times when someone has been deployed by their boss, their company, to go and work someplace out of the United States, but it has happened. But fundamentally, I saw the educational advanced parole as a way to create that bridge, as a way to give these young people an opportunity to not only return home, not only to study abroad, but the political and legal benefit of advanced parole, and you've already pointed it out, is that as you re-enter, when you come back in with that permit, now you're entering the United States legally, which means is what they call through inspection. You're coming in with a document, they allow you to come in, you're registered as a lawful entrant. And it eliminates the prior unlawful entry. When somebody, might have been your parents, your tios, or a coyote, that brought you across illegally. And that's the cross that you bear forever as a child, that you have no idea how you ended up here. Some adult brought you here, but you're still considered an unlawful entrant. So the magic of advanced parole is that you now wash away, you eliminate that unlawful entrant, which gives you eligibility through marriage, fundamentally, to become legalized, what they call adjustment of status, so that a U.S. citizen spouse can sponsor their wife or husband, and within 6 months, they get a green card. And moreover, they do not have to return home to wait for that visa, which is unfortunately the benefit, or I should say the consequence of Mr. Bill Clinton's bar, the penalty that Bill Clinton passed in the 1980s, that anyone who entered illegally into the US would have to pay a 10-year penalty to not be able to come back. And the other, of course, was Mr. Obama, who deported the highest number of immigrants. In his 8-year tenure, there were 3 million deportations under Obama and Biden. And those 3 million were fundamentally immigrants from the Western Hemisphere. It was only Mexicanos and Centroamericanos. There was 2 billion Mexicans deported, more than 500,000 Central Americans, and the rest from the rest of the world. In other words, there were no deportations from any other continent, whether you're talking about Africa, Asia, Europe, or any place else. Mr. Obama earned the title of the deporter-in-chief because he deported almost 500,000 every year. You're talking about 45,000 per month, more than 1,500 every day. So we are now circling back and hoping that Mr. Biden is going to be the one that will truly, and the Democrats will deliver on a comprehensive immigration reform, which is highly due because we are the wave of immigrants that has made this country what it is today. And I think that we are on our path to doing that because, frankly, the racists, the supremacists, the Trumpers, and we have plenty of Latino Trumpers, let me say that are also going to be gone. And they may not be changeable because these are racist people that will probably carry that racism and that hate until into their grave. But we have to invest and think ahead in terms of the next generations. Kids are in kindergarten, kids are in elementary school, kids that are in high school, junior high school, senior high school, and to teach them love, understanding, and ethnic studies to learn and appreciate the culture, the history of all others. Not only that we are better, that Latinos are like, we're gonna come into power. No, I think we'll become the majority of the state. We're going to need to be even more understanding, more appreciative of those that are not of Latino or Mexican or call it what you want. I despise the term Latinx. I despise the term Hispanic, but it doesn't matter. What it comes down to is that we are going to be the majority of the state of California. Now today, and we're almost close to half, out of 40 million Californians, rounded out, 20 million are Mexican, because we have very few Latinos in the state of California. Let's face it. So this is why I find it to be offensive that people are jumping to this Latinx identity, when in fact, we're Mexicanos. We're Mexicans, Chicanos. We are proud, like Blacks are, to be proud of their identity. But let me tell you, add up 20 million Mexicans in California and 130 million Mexicans in Mexico today. You're talking about 150 Mexicans between California, when you combine California and Mexico. We are the super majority. That doesn't mean that everything has to turn Mexican. It means that we're going to continue to be the consumer market. We're going to continue to be the workforce. We're going to continue to be, and even more so, the leadership, politically or in business or in all the other aspects of life. And there's nothing to freak out about. We are going to need to face that in order for California and Mexico to continue to be the most productive region in the world. So anyway, I realize that I may be preaching a little bit of a line, but
just a little.
Look at the numbers.
All right. Well, if we could go back to the California Mexico Dreamers Study Abroad program.
Sure.
You started it a few years ago, and tell us how you recruited the students. Where did they come from? What was you put together a program, an actual curriculum. If you could just walk us through some of those processes, and then most important, what was their experiences like once they were able to return to their home country?
It was an evolution because I started with only two valientes, two pioneers. I don't want to call them guinea pigs. I want to call them those two, Ana and Jaime. They were the first two dreamers that said, yeah, we'll do it, Profe. We got their permits. They traveled with me in the spring break of 2014 as a test case. We got their advanced parole permits. And upon re-entry, we realized that we could do this for the entire class. So by spring break of 2015, I created a new class that was all dreamers, 15 of them. And we returned again only for the spring break 10-day trip. And that's when I realized that we needed to diversify, that we needed to create an opportunity for more than one university in order to create a model at other institutions. So at that point, we grew. By the end of 2015, we got a couple of small grants to expand the program, and we made it LA-wide. So now we have colleges and universities involved from all the LA area, and we ended up taking 35. And then at that point, we realized this has to go national. And so by summer of 2016, we had another, I think it was close to 40, another group of 40 from all throughout the United States. And that has been the pattern. And it has been also very interesting. It has always been 80% or more women, Mexicanas, Latinas, predominantly Mexican, because we're taking them to Mexico. They're longing to go back home, to visit their birthplace, their families, to relocate to the places that they have only seen in film or in photos. And of course, the idea here was for us to create a model that other colleges and universities would be willing to integrate within their study abroad programs. That has not happened. We became pariahs in the desert. We were preaching to the wilderness. And up to this point, colleges and universities throughout the United States, I've done presentations to conferences where I'm poking them in the eye and I'm saying, you are discriminating against dreamers because they have the same right to study abroad like anybody else. And I really anticipate that from those 6, 7 groups now with all this 210 this summer, that we will end up planting the seeds for future programs at different colleges and universities. I'm going to be very upfront with you right now and your public, Abelardo. I am done. I have already reached the goal, accomplished what we set out to do. We have pressured this government to grant educational advance parole for dreamers. And I'm turning the page, and I've let everyone know from this point forth, you pay it forward by creating the same opportunity for other dreamers at your colleges and universities. Let me tell you why. Abelardo, from these 210 participants this summer, we have representation from 90, let me repeat that, 90 colleges and universities from throughout the United States. From 28 states, more than half of the nation is represented. We have kids from Wyoming, from Utah, from New Jersey, New York, Texas, Arkansas. You see what I'm saying? It is not one program that should be in existence. And it's an ideal moment, frankly, because of the pandemic. The reason is that literally there's nobody else in the United States, or maybe even the world, that is doing what we're doing. With all humility, nobody else is taking students to study abroad this summer. Why? Because universities have been shut down. There is no study abroad. And we have to take advantage of this now and gamble with a risk, but it's a very, very well-planned and protected program. We have 24/7 medical assistance for every one of these students that will travel for approximately a month. They spend about 3 weeks with their own families, visiting places, even touristic places like Tulum, going to Cancun, going to Yucatan and the peninsula, Acapulco, Vallarta. They're longing for this. Some of this you saw in the clip. Miriam, was 27 years ago. She came when she was 7 years old. So the point here is that we are planting the seeds with these young people for them to go back and pay it forward by creating programs at their own colleges and universities, because we know that they're all going to ramp up again study abroad for summer of 2022. So if they don't do it, that's too bad. But U.S. higher education, and I'm stating it again as I've done at various forums, you have the responsibility. You, Cal State University, you know, I share with the new chancellor of the CSU, a Chicano, former president of Fresno State University, Joe Castro. I share with him and the vice chancellor for university advancement that in our program, we have representation from 16 out of the 23 Cal States, okay? And Cal State does not send CSU students to study abroad in Mexico. I know that data because I worked at the chancellor's office in international programs back in the mid-90s. There's less than 100 CSU students that study in Mexico. This is before the pandemic. Right now, there's 0. So I'm questioning, how can you turn the page at this point and plan for dreamers to have an opportunity to study abroad, not only in Mexico, in much greater numbers? I already gave you the demographics for the state of California, which is a nation state of 40 million people, but the CSU has it has about 44% enrollment today of Latinos. And there's only 100 that study in Mexico, while at the same time, there's like about 500 CSU students that study in Spain to learn Espanol, and they can come back with that Castilian accent and no cultural sensitivity because they have not experienced Mexico, which is the predominant source of the immigrant population that has made the state great, but also that was Mexico until the conquest of the US, the invasion of the US. So all of these are connecting points that have, obviously I'm passionate about it, but also the reality is that we need to convey to the policymakers, we need to convey to those that are concerned about us overrunning the state, that they need to wake up and smell the frijoles, because we have already taken over the state and we're going to be the majority, but we're not going to be supremacists. We're not going to be people that say, okay, move out of the way. Now we're running the show. No, we are much bigger, much better as a people than to act like the supremacists that the insurrectionists that attack the Capitol, because they're so afraid that their white people are losing control, and they are already less than majority. We are already living in the United States that is a majority minority population. Get used to it and wake up and smell not only the frijoles, the jambalaya, and everything else that they have to get used to, that we have. That's not a melting pot. It's an ensalada of all these ethnicities and cultures that they're going to need to accept. And that's what ethnic studies is about today. Don't give me this, rejection of, ethnic studies teaching hate and all that. It's quite the opposite. We're teaching acceptance, understanding, and bringing our different cultures and identities as one that accepts and understands one another.
All right. Well, I imagine for the students that have participated in the program, you say the first 3 weeks, essentially the last few programs, they spend 3 weeks with their at home or visiting family, and then they have 1 week of a more of a structured program. Is that correct?
Correct. And that's what we call the academic program. They're required to produce an ethnographic research paper. What the hell does that mean? It means reflect upon your experience and research your own family's migration. Understand where both sides of your family came from. Visit, but also collect knowledge and write from your perspective how this is integrated into an ethnographic essay that is simply a history a reflection of your personal experience, but connecting the dots in terms of, some people say, well, I don't have anybody to visit, or I don't have any more connection to my family. Well, discover it. Because if it's from Jalisco, there's millions of Jaliscienses in the United States. If you came from Michoacán, there's millions of Michoacanos. Zacatecanos, both Zacatecas and Guanajuato, more than half of those two states' population is in the United States now. It's amazing. More than 50% of the Zacatecanos are now spread throughout the United States. So there's a body of knowledge about their history, their culture, their traditions, the contributions that they're making, not only here, but in Mexico, as Zacatecanos, and that is Zacatecano studies. That's part of a body of knowledge that I'm challenging the Chicanologos to go beyond the borders. Chicano studies was not meant to be only the study about the Mexicanos, and call them whatever, even Latinx, within the United States boundaries. It's about our origins, our diaspora, which is not only from Mexico, it's from Central America, it's from South America. But of course, 65% to 70% of the Latinos in the United States are of Mexican origin. Why are we not proud of that? Why are we afraid of reckoning with that? And see, this is why I am a product of the Chicano movement from the 60s. I have a Chicano, Mexicano, a Chilango, a Mexican American identity, and we can wear more than one hat at a time. There's multiple identities that we can feel comfortable with. And I respect if you identify and you feel comfortable with Latinx, está toda madre. It's fine. It's all right. But it's not reflective of what Chicano and Mexican Americans as a social movement represent, that brought about the benefits, the opportunities, the privilege that some of these young people do not understand because they were not taught about that in elementary, in middle school, in high school. And this is why the importance of teaching about, yes, the Chicano movement, yes, Chicano studies, and women's studies, Latina studies. So it's not limiting to like, oh, we can only teach about this time war period in the 60s and the 70s of the Chicano movement. No, we are still an extension of that movement. We're still a part of that evolving community, but also show me what you have done to build, to create social change, to create movement. And this is where I'm willing to say, young people today are asleep at the wheel. Young people haven't created anything in the last 30 years, but they want to have the privilege, they want to have the benefit of all of these things that they feel just came from the sky. No, we stand on the shoulders of people from way back in the 1930s and the 1940s that build the opportunities that we have today. We wouldn't be here without a Cesar Chavez, but no, not only that, a Luisa Moreno, or a Josefina Fierro, or the legacy of Sal Castro. You see, but that's not being taught at even at the universities, frankly. Chicano studies programs are totally caught up in a very self-serving mode. They're not growing, they're not promoting. So we need to create this new wave of activism. This is what I challenge those that say, well, we're not Chicanos because we're not. Well, what are you then? Tell me what you feel comfortable with. That's identity. But what are you going to do to bring about social change? You see, so, that's still my activism orientation from more than 53 years ago, bro.
That's right. And you're still keeping on. Now when the 3 weeks, then do they gather in one spot for that last week, or do they still
Yes.
continue? And where is this? Where do they go?
This is where we have had a little bit of resistance because some of the dreamers have decided they don't want to be vaccinated. Out of personal choice, I have rights. I do not want to be, for all the different reasons in the world, which to me are senseless. And so we have decided, okay, you apply, you're part of our program, we're giving you the permit, but you cannot participate in a safe space. In that last week of our academic program, nobody can come in without being vaccinated. So if you decide for religious, for scientific, for ideological reasons, está toda madre. We respect that right, but you cannot come into this space. Now, the alternative package is that I give them a chance to write twice as many pages in the research paper and to be whatever they want to do for an additional week on their own and meet us at the airport to return back with us as a group. Because I want to deliver the assurances that I have given them that they're going to come back safe. And let me tell you, today, I feel so much stronger that if we can deliver on that. Abelardo, I have a working relationship with the CBP, the Customs and Border Patrol. It's La Migra, bro, at the airport, here LAX. They expedited 21 in less than 1 hour on Sunday. Why? Because we made arrangements in advance. We gave them all of the data. We said, here's their permits, here's their DACA number, here's when we're coming in. And they all came back in wearing a shirt, a t-shirt for the program. It's like bringing back a group of Boy Scouts, okay? It's all psychological. We do not represent fear. We do not represent some type of radical or some type of terrorist organization. You know, we are part of this society, whether they like it or not. And we did it all legally. So I was amazed because now I feel so confident to assure the students that they're going to come back through LAX, like we did 4 years ago through Tijuana and the Office of Special Cases that processed us without any delay. And so I think this is part of what young people that have decided that for whatever reason they don't want to be vaccinated, I'd rather not even have them around. But I'm going to deliver for them because they did apply. We selected them. They paid their program fees, and we're going to give them the same benefit. But I do not want to have people that are negative. I do not want to have people that are going to poison the well. And I tell you, this group that we just came back with on Sunday was the sweetest experience that I have had now with 7 groups. I mean, it was an amazing brotherhood. And they all turned in their papers as required at 5 p.m. last Saturday. I have a professor, a dear friend, colleague here at Cal State Long Beach, who's in charge of making sure they get feedback, that they submit their papers on time. And that's who I'm going to work with towards publishing some of these. If we're going to make a selection, let's say 10% of the 210, 20, 25, 30 papers of the best human stories to publish about this experiment that now has become a model for anybody. And I will facilitate any institution that wants help. We will provide them assistance to develop the program. But I'm done. After December, I'm turning the page, and I made that clear to dreamers. Everyone that's calling, hey, I heard about this program, I'm telling them, where do you go to school at? I had with somebody who just called me yesterday. Well, I attend this community college and Cal State San Marino. I go, get a pen. I'm going to give you a number. Call my good friend, Dr. Enrique Murillo. Call him right now. Tell him that I asked you to call him because you want to start a program for Dreamer Study Abroad next summer. But don't wait. There's no more here. We're not going to do it again. You need to create your own. In other words, dreamers, you got to get off your ass and stop being the complainers and stop being this entitled and pretend like you're victims. And that's part of the benefit of the trip. They realize how much they have to appreciate the risk and the adventure that the parents took. They need to appreciate that they're in a society that is giving them privilege. But what could have happened if the parents or somebody had not brought them over? And I tell you, it's a life-changing experience. So, I've done this already enough, as you and I did for 10 years at the Mexican Cultural Institute. It's time to move on. And so I'm looking at different frontiers. And I'm going to come back and work with you because we want to talk about that Cicados 2022 project. And I'm going to send it to you. I'm going to send it to you because right before I left, I sent it to David Turge and to Luis Garza. And now we're just kind of polishing it so we can create this initiative to recover the first mural painted by El Maestro David Alfaro Siqueiros here in LA. So, I got to open your doors, brother. I'm about to turn 72. I have maybe another 5 years of full energy. I don't know what's going to happen, but they may have to take me with my boots on and feet first.
All right.
So as long as I have that level of energy and enthusiasm, I'm going to be pushing the envelope because I'm really frustrated with a lack of leadership in our community, with a lack of fight. We frankly have not had a social movement in the last 20-something years. Unless I'm wrong, unless I miss it, I want somebody to call and say, well, what about this? What about that? Young people, you have been sitting on your ass, sitting at the driver's seat, but without stepping on the pedal. So it's time, guys. It is your generation.
Well, that's up for debate, but we don't have time for that right now, Profe.
No,
a couple questions. For other colleges or universities that want to create a program similar to what you did, are you providing a template for it? Are you open to having people, give you a call to find out how you did it so that you in turn can, so that they in turn can.
Absolutely, and I will do it without any consultant fees or anything. I'll do it out of my passion. I haven't been paid a penny for any of this work. Everything that I generate in consulting work, I plow it into the nonprofit because I've had a team of seven dreamers that have been working with me throughout. I wouldn't have been able to do this without having a backup team. But here's what we have. We can offer a manual. We can offer a manual that we provided every participant in our program how to do your advanced parole application. We can provide kits, training. We can provide the experience of 7 years of doing this program. And as I mentioned to you, in 6 programs, we took a total of about 160 participants, from 2015 to now. And this summer alone, we're taking 210 in 5 groups. So this is why I say in Spanish, ya no quiero queso, quiero salir de la ratonera. I've already reached my goal, which was to force this government to restore DACA's advanced parole for educational purposes. And of course, that was impossible under the nefarious administration of the worst and most racist, hateful person that has ever occupied the White House. I don't need to mention him by name. And of course, this has been the source of the division, the hate that we are going through, but we're a better nation than that. We're going to we're going to overcome that and also become a stronger nation. And Latinos, Mexicanos, Chicanos, and even Latinx are going to be very much a part of that.
All right. We have a question here from one of our loyal viewers here. What can I, as a high school teacher, do or say to encourage my students to find colleges that provide these experiences?
Well, unfortunately, I feel that our college universities have also been rather flat. There has been no Chicano movement. There has been no any kind of movement. So I would ask that teacher to start teaching ethnic studies, Chicano Latino studies, to start teaching about all ethnic groups. You know, in California, we're going through a revolution. We had last year a new bill that was signed into law called AB 1416 by formerly Assemblywoman Shirley Weber. Now, the state of California's Secretary of State. And Shirley, an African-American professor at San Diego State, and as she introduced this bill, it was pulled back once, maybe twice. And when it was adopted last year, it created the impetus for the entire Cal State system to require that every Cal State graduate has to have at least one 3-unit class of ethnic studies. And the class that we have been offering, the work that I do at Cal State Long Beach now is offering a program that is on Saturdays. We extend ethnic studies classes to high school kids in 3 districts: Long Beach Unified, Norwalk La Mirada, and now Paramount. Before that, we also had El Rancho Unified, which is really where I started this program with them, because I saw the opportunity to create ethnic studies classes. I started with a Chicano studies class, but then we expanded it to all 4 ethnic studies departments, and we started teaching college credit classes on Saturdays, which would not compete with a regular curriculum, but with a college credit. And also because the districts pay for the class. So every class is bought or paid for by the district, and we provide the instruction and the credit. So I would tell this young professor, teacher in high school, wake up and smell the frijoles. Start teaching on Saturdays. You could teach that class. If you have a master's, you can teach in a Cal State. Or identify a Cal State that's nearby. Look, you can be any place. You can be in Eureka, and you have Humboldt up there, okay? You could be San Diego. You have San Marcos, San Diego. You have, there's another campus down there, I can't remember right now. LA has 6 campuses of the CSU. There's no reason why every Cal State should not be offering these classes. The model that we created is paid for by the districts. The students get the credit, the 3 units of credit, but also the districts pay for the books, and they pay for the transportation to bring them to the campus. Every semester we have, other than during the pandemic, we have a day-long conference for the students from all of these classes. We're offering today at Cal State Long Beach, last spring semester, we offered 16 classes on Saturdays, 10 in the Long Beach Unified, which were at 6 different high schools, 3 at Norwalk La Mirada, and 3 at Paramount Unified. And that's the model. That's what I'm preaching. Every Cal State should be doing with their local districts, so that you don't wait until the kids graduate and maybe somehow they get turned on to learn about history and culture of ethnic groups. No, you got to institute that now, because that's how also you abate the racist era of Trump and the hate that we are living through today. I mean, there's a reason why this rash of serial killings or mass shootings. People have been held up in enclosed space for more than a year, and now we experience this. I mean, this is all connected to the educational experience that has been marginalized, and of course, we have been able to advance the educational opportunities through Zoom and through distance learning, but there's nothing like people coming in contact with each other. Sure. Unfortunately, the downside of that, there's a lot of pent-up frustration, and there is a collective, well, I shouldn't say collective, I should say there's an extensive amount of mental health issues that have surfaced because of this suffering, the loss of loved ones, the personal experience, maybe being sick from COVID, and of course, the isolation, which all leads to negative effect. So we got to grapple with that. And coming together, I think it's the best way for any teacher. If you're there, bring them together on Saturday. Find out what is it like to have an extra credit session. And then the light's going to turn on and you say, damn, I could do this every Saturday and cover material that is extracurricular, just institutionalize it so that it has college credit. Go to your closest Cal State campus and say, hey, I want to pay for this class. Force your school district to do it.
Or can people get all this information from your website at the California Mexico Studies Center? And how to contact you?
Not on the Ethnic Studies program, because that's still a Cal State University program, but I initiated the program, and I would be glad to help any institution, whether it's a school district or a Cal State or a community college that wants to create this kind of dynamic, because I tell you, kids do not do anything more than sleep in, maybe play soccer, or do nothing on Saturdays. And when you present the opportunity to earn 3 units of college credit, and the way I present the concept or the model is that if you do that during your 3 years of high school, you could earn as much as 15 units of credit. That's equivalent to a semester of college work. That's already paid for, it's already done. That means early graduation. But the bottom line for me is that hopefully we're turning on young people of any ethnic background, white kids, to ethnic studies. Any kid that can say, wow, this is going to open my understanding of the differences and appreciate what we all bring to the table. It isn't about, pilgrims and the Thanksgiving celebration, okay? It's about truly understanding how we all bring to the table, whether it's African Americans, American Indians, Asian Americans, and Latinos, Mexicanos, Chicanos. Why? Because anything else is not ethnic studies. I mean, we had an attempt by, different interest groups, different sectors about is, hey, we're also teaching ethnic studies. No. We're talking about 4 disciplines: Black, Chicano, American Indian, an Asian American that have been toiling for now 52 years of ethnic studies in the United States. So Johnny come lately is fine. Create your own, because there's many other ethnic communities that also are deserving, but do not try to say we're also doing ethnic studies. You have history and culture of many communities in the United States, but you're either from Africa, you're either from Asia, you're either from Europe, or you're from the Americas. Those are the continents that we need to reflect. And white people are fundamentally from one continent, and they're the dominant population. And that's what the entire curriculum is about, is Eurocentric. And that's okay. That's okay. We need to get people that are white to have a better understanding of the other ethnic groups. And that's unfortunately what the educational system has left out. But it's not too late to start. So I think I'm really excited and pumped up about this evolution of ethnic studies, especially in California and other places. But there's also a pushback by the right-wingers because they feel very threatened. They say, oh man, they're not only taking over, they're going to wipe out our version of history and the apple tree and the Alamo and all of that crap that is taught over and over again in junior high school, in high school, and even in college.
Well, anyway. Profe, I know that you've in your years as an educator, you've impacted a lot of people throughout the years in classrooms and outside of classrooms as well. I mean, we could go on for a while here, but we have to go. We have a couple comments here from Abril Magaña. She's on Facebook. Thank you for joining us. Muchos saludos al maestro Armando. Mi hijo Alex hizo un viaje con el México al México, llevando a varios dreamers y documentó todo el viaje y el impacto que tuvo en esos niños para su vida futura. Con gusto, luego mando el link para que vean el documental con el maestro Armando.
Gracias, gracias.
We have from Juan Gomez with a pretty strong comment here. In 1997, Highland Park Chicano culture disappeared due to artist egos, and public art funding made Chicano Chicanas greedy and didn't teach to throw that government money back. So that's another point of view.
Yeah.
And then finally, Alex Flores, saludos, Professor Armando, congratulations on your great work. And we thank you. The sunlight is leaving me here, so we're gonna have to stop here, but thank you for taking the time to join us, Profe. A lot to unpack here. Those of you who viewed it, if you want to view it again, we recorded it. We're going to post it on our Facebook page, on our YouTube page. I'll be sending the link to Armando for him to post on his website as well. You can catch this one plus 170 plus sessions that we've done here on En Casa con la Plaza since last April. Thank you all for joining us. Coming up this Friday, we have Mexico Tradicional Mexicana, Preserving, Teaching, and Performing with Sergio Checo Alonso, who's an educator, scholar, and multi-instrumentalist, along with Beto Arcos, who we all know as a music journalist and author. That's this Friday, June 25th. Checo, he's the harpist with the Mariachi Los Camperos de Naticano. He's been with them for more than 24 years. So that's going to be a conversation plus a performance. And then check out the rest of our schedule on our website, lapca.org. Also on our Facebook page at La Plaza LA. And of course, our YouTube channel has all of our En Casa con la Plaza and also our En Familia con la Plaza, which are family-oriented workshops teaching about horticulture, about culinary arts, gardening, and a whole lot more. And you can catch those on our YouTube page every Saturday at 10:30 when they come on, but you could also catch them later when you have a little bit of time. So thank you for sharing your time with us, Armando. Thank you to all of you out there that joined us today. So do you see any positivity coming out with what's going on with, of course, your court case, which you won? Our vice president scheduled to go to the border this Friday, making trips to Mexico and Guatemala most recently with the Biden administration. What's your hope for the future, please?
Well, I think that is way overdue, and I'm so glad that this is not only a symbolic trip. I'm really glad that Kamala has been given this hot potato to deal with, because I think if anyone's going to lead us, and I really see her as our next president of the United States, she's extremely intelligent and capable. And I think in terms of US-Mexico policy, as also California-Mexico policy, there's a total void. Look, anybody could create in a space that is totally barren, that is totally absent. Anybody, please tell me, what is the future of the California-Mexico relationship or the US-Mexico relationship? There is no planning, there is no future, there is no master plan. And so I'm really banking on this administration to put in perspective what this nation depends upon, not only Mexico, Central America, as well as the rest of the hemisphere, and reverse the policies of decades of institutional racism and discrimination against our very next door neighbors and the rest of the continent. So I wanted to offer that if there's any other opportunity that you would like to talk about, specifically my field of focus is the California-Mexico relationship. I would love to talk with you about the economic, the political, and also what is clearly, I mentioned already, a region that is super majority Mexican origin, okay? Again, I don't want to sound supremacist, but when you combine the 130 Mexicanos in the Mexican Republic with almost 20 million Latinos, predominantly Mexican origin in California, about to become more than half of the state, I mean, there's something wrong with this picture. When we don't know what we're going to do to remain a competitive region. We don't know what's before us. How does the educational process connect to the future of the state of California as it pertains to the training at the highest level, as well as at the operational level? And it's almost like a history of benign neglect. It's always considered Mexico like, oh, this next door neighbor that you don't really want to bring into the party. Well, I tell you, our codependence is even greater today than ever, but our collaboration needs to be focused, it has to be defined, it has to be planned. Like you would plan for any business, how you're going to make it more productive, more competitive, and dealing with who's your workforce. And in this case, Mexicanos, Latinos are going to be increasingly more the workforce. And this is why Mexico is California's #1 business partner. This is why Mexico is the United States' #2 business partner after Canada. And it's even greater than the China market. So why don't we contextualize this? Why don't we plan and understand what that represents to our future? Is racism, is discrimination, is institutional myopia. Because even our Latino legislators are not stepping up to say, hey, we need to advocate for closer collaboration with Mexico. Everyone's sort of afraid of being identified as Mexican. They say, oh, no, I don't want to, get too involved with the business of Mexico. Hey, Mexicanos, legislators, wake up and smell the frijoles too. Because,
all right,
you cannot just legislate for the state of California if you're not looking at who's your biggest consumer and productive partner, and that's Mexico. So anyway, I just wanted to offer that. Please, if you have a chance, post our website and call me if you would like to follow up with us. We'd love to help, especially as it relates to promoting and creating Dreamer Study of our programs or the Ethnic Studies Initiative in high schools.
all right. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I did post both in our chat and on our comment section on Facebook. You have the Prof's website, California Mexico Study Center. Thank you so much for joining us. I know that this conversation is going to lead to something else, but we'll talk soon. Armando, muchas gracias por su visita on En Casa con la Plaza, and thank you out there, everybody, for joining us tonight as well. Buenas noches.
I love you, brother, and what you're doing and John's work. Unfortunately, he's going to be moving on, but I tell you, you guys really have made in the last few years a great impact in turning around the Plaza de Cultura y Arte. So my congratulations to you and John and the rest of the team. It's an impressive amount of work that you guys are doing. And again, it was way past due. You and I go back 20 years at that birthplace of the city of Los Angeles. So it's wonderful what you're doing, brother. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much as well. All of you out there, as you know, La Plaza de Cultura y Artes has reopened. We're open at our regular hours, Wednesday through Monday, from noon to 5 o'clock. No need for reservations. We are asking people to please wear their mascara when they're inside the La Plaza, unless you have an exemption, but it's very simple. You could wander around, no more social distancing, stay as long as you like between 12 and 5. And also we start our public programming next month, July 17th, with a showing of Carlos Almaraz, Playing with Fire. It's a documentary screening. We'll do it outside at our beautiful campus outdoor stage there with some música, a panel discussion, a whole lot more. Check us out at lapca.org, our Facebook page at La Plaza LA. And of course, you could check this recording on YouTube at La Plaza LA. So buenas noches. We'll see you soon, Armando.
Take care, brother. Good night.
Good night.